Everyone loves JoJo's. With the funnest got like, yay, it's a JoJo reference, yay, it's a stand user, yay, it's a JoJo pose. But not everyone likes every part. Part 1 is disliked by many, but there's one other part that I just don't see getting the same respect that the other parts get, and that is JoJo Part 6, Stone Ocean. Before reading JoJo Part 6, I admittedly wasn't super excited for it, because in rankings that I had seen, I usually saw JoJo Part 6 near the bottom. But then when I read it, I'm not gonna lie, it was some heat for most of the part. I liked Part 6 a lot, and it had some crazy highs, such as like the memory report and Poochie backstory, because that was like insane and so well written. But then, why do people hate on Part 6? Well, I went into the lab, and buckle your seatbelts, because I'm about to break down every possible problem with Part 6 I could think of. Alright, first, we got the Poochie problem. The villain in each part affects how good said part will be so much. Like, that's a big reason why Part 4 gets so much props, because Kira is just like such a great villain. But then, is the problem that Poochie's a bad villain? No! He's a super cool villain, he's got a cool design, and probably the best writing for a JoJo villain so far. At least from where I am, because I just recently finished Part 6. But the problem is, there's just too much Poochie. If we look at Part 3, 4, and 5, we rarely saw the villains except for the ultimate climaxes, and sometimes some other peaks in the story. Like, in Part 4, maybe we would have a little looks into like Kira's shenanigans, but that's only in the second half of Part 4, so it's not like we're getting OD'd on Kira. But Poochie shows up so early, and half the part is like solely spent just chasing him. So we just see so much of him throughout the story. He's still an amazingly written villain, but we see so much of him that he loses some of the mystique that most main JoJo villains have. And this could be a possible problem with Part 6. Like, it could be it could throw people off in the story, but what else is making people disrespect Part 6? Because it can't just be that, you know? Alright, next, we got the jail problem. Most of the story is set in prison, and honestly, usually I love prison stuff in most media. Like, I love the more nitty-gritty aspect of prison content in most shows and animes and mangas and movies and things like that. But the problem is that JoJo's is a little different. JoJo's, in my opinion at least, is often at its best when we get to see the characters traveling across the world, like in Part 3 and 5, because it keeps things consistently fresh. We constantly get these cool new unique settings, and we don't get this much in Part 6, because she's in a prison. Like, where is she even supposed to go until the end when she breaks out? But there's a lot of prison time where we're just trapped in there. It's just that in the end, this JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, so I'm trying to see a little more adventure, if you know what I mean. This is something I actually also didn't love about Part 4, but people love Part 4, so there's got to be some other reason why people hate on Part 6. Well, next, we have the problem of the pointless existence side villains in Part 6. In every JoJo part, we have a bunch of side villains to fill up the time between the main climaxes in the story. But what makes these side characters good? Having cool abilities and cool designs are obviously decent factors, but there's something more that makes villains good, and that's them having a purpose. JoJo Part 5 had some of the best side villains with all the La Squadra members, but what made them so good is their drive to kill the boss, get revenge, and their resolve that they hold as a group. They're a unit, they're a group that works together, they have goals, they have motives, they have things that they want to do as characters. But with a lot of the side villains in Part 6, we just don't get that. These characters are only fighting the protagonist because they are being controlled by White Snake. So a lot of these side villains, obviously not all of them, but a lot of these side villains, they just feel like empty husks with no personality and no true existence in themselves. It becomes harder to become interested in a side villain that has no real resolve and that we know are just some random villains of the week that are here to kill time in between the actual important moments. Of course, there's not every side villain in part 6, because we have guys like the old cult leader dude and then Dio's kids. But even those guys, none of them fully hit for me the way some characters like Pesky, Prosciutto, Giasio, and Risotto, all of the squadron members in part 5, who were all such like fire side villains in part 5 and kept me engaged throughout the story. And comparing that to the part 6 side villains, it's just not the same. It's just not as good. You know what I'm saying? Next, I'm gonna talk about a weird thing, but this is something I saw in the comments of the chapters I was reading. People complaining about this is the Jotaro nerf problem. In most parts, there's at least one fan favorite returning character that shows up in the newest part. In part 3, we get Joseph returning, and he's a little wiser in that part, but he still has his charm from part 2. In part 4, we have Jotaro, who's such a beast, and he is just such a cool present to that part, except for when he was getting cooked up by those like rat things, because I don't even know what that was. And then in part 5, we have Koichi showing up near the start and get a big surprise with the Polnareff return near the end of the part. In part 6, we get Jotaro again, which is a little bit of a rerun because we already saw him have a big role in 2 parts, but okay, he's still a super cool menace, which makes his presence fun. So he's still a good returning character, right? Well, kinda. He still has his fire fits, his cool attitude, but at times it just doesn't feel the same. Like, we are seeing the same guy who beat Dio struggle so much against some crappy stand that just reads airflow, and then in that same fight he gets packed up by White Snake in Jotaro's first real appearance in that part. Like, in the first fight against Kira, yes, Jotaro got pretty messed up by the Kira long distance tank stand that came from his hand, but we still saw Jotaro hit Kira with a Jojo style beatdown in that same fight. We never got to see Jotaro get a single win in the entire part 6. And for what we as an audience expect from him, it just feels wrong, you know? Yo, real quick, I'm shouting out someone random in the comments every video. So for this video, shout out to Green Brown. Alright, back to the video. Alright, here's a bit of a weird possible problem, but here it is. It's the problem of the reader not knowing what is even happening. Part 6 is filled with mystery, and we see Poochie so much, but we don't really understand what he's aiming for exactly until the very end of the part. Mystery is fun for a lot of people, and it can keep readers hooked in. However, not knowing what is going on can make it harder to even care about what's happening. For example, when Jolene and Anasui are trying to catch the green baby thing, we know barely anything at this time, like about the truth of the green baby. We don't know who this baby is, what this baby is, and how exactly this green baby exactly falls into the story and Poochie's main plan. We know it's a key element, but we don't have a full understanding, and the constant mystery in the part can definitely be a positive of part 6, but it is also a potential problem because of how it leaves us readers in the dark a little too much at times. Finally, the last problem is the insanity of the part 6 ending. In my opinion, the ending, it was super ambitious, and it was also such good work. The ending, it's so creative. The impact is so huge on the story, which is something I liked about it. But I can also see how it might be a problem for some readers. We are so used to the JoJo part endings not affecting the other parts too significantly, since it's usually just the bad guy gets defeated and then we're all happy, ooh, we killed Kira, oh, we killed Dio. In part 6, however, the ending has mysterious and hard to understand effects on other previous parts and characters that we know. What happened to this guy in this other part that I liked? And it just makes it feel a little scary. For people who loved everything so much before part 6, it could easily be a negative of how impactful part 6's ending was on the other parts, because sometimes change can be scary and you're not trying to see that. I enjoyed it personally, but I could definitely see it as a potential problem for why some people, they just don't rate Stone Ocean too well. Alright, that's the video. Thanks for watching, and subscribe if you guys are down, because I'm trying to get monetized. I see ya.